Hello there, Shortcuts. Stephen here. Welcome to video one, the genre list for this week's Shortcuts selection. The video will be uploaded to YouTube as usual, and the price list will go out at 9 p.m. Sydney time this Wednesday. That is the 20th of August. So this is the genre list. If you see anything you like here and you're not on my price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. There were 5 of you who joined up last week. We're almost at the 500 member mark, which is awesome. So this week I have a lot of records that I've never had before and some new genres. We've got some Japanese city pop. We've definitely got some punk, some metal, some new wave, some jazz. So let's get into it. It was really hard to pick the lead-off record for this selection. Any of the first 3, I think, could have gone with it, but I've decided to go with this. You will notice, since it's sunny outside for once, that this is still sealed. This is the Rhino High Fidelity release from a few months ago of Van Morrison's His Band and the Street Choir. Cut from original analog master tapes by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio and pressed at Optimal. Heavyweight Gatefold's sleeve includes an exclusive insert with notes in an interview by Elliot Shiner and Corey Fry, which is actually really good. I've got my own copy over in the listening room. So this is the limited numbered edition of 5,000, and I think this is number... Oh, the number's hidden in there, but it's still sealed. So why did I choose this? I think this Rhino High Fidelity series is amongst the greatest modern reissue campaigns. There are several records that are clearly definitive copies of iconic records. I would include in that the release that they did of Black Sabbath's debut album, self-titled. The Marquee Moon repress by Television is, in my opinion, the definitive release. That is the best release of that ever made. There are several other jazz releases that I really like, but I don't know enough to say if they're definitive. The John Coltrane Olé is spectacular. And this, I think this is definitive. This record from 1970 is a little bit of a nugget that a lot of people haven't got in their collection. They have the surrounding records. They'll have Moondance and maybe a little bit of Astral Weeks, a few more of you, but you've got Moondance, you'll have St. Dominic's Preview, but you won't have this. And it's a shame. This record is Van Morrison at his most joyous and on occasion at his most tender. I absolutely love the song If I Ever Needed Someone. I think that it was somewhat overshadowed by Moondance, but I don't think that it's an inferior record to Moondance. They have similar DNA. And in Domino, you have one of Van Morrison's greatest songs, Crazy Face, I'll Be Your Lover Too, Gypsy Queen, and the final track, Street Choir. I think it's great. Interesting that Rhino decided to do this record, and a lot of them have sold out. A lot of them are the Cars and the Doobie Brothers, etc. Not really what I would consider to be records that I need to have, but 70s Van Morrison, I'm going to say yes. It's joyous, it's spontaneous, it's a little bit more freewheeling than Moondance. And this is the best I've ever heard it. And I really like this record. They're awesome. If you ever get a chance to pick up these Rhino High Fidelity presses, just do it with no fear. They're superb. And they're helping me get over the loss of Vinyl Me Please in many respects. Although Vinyl Me Please sent out a note for those of you who might be interested, saying that they're going to be spinning it. The new owner is going to be spinning it back up in September. Well, we shall see. All right. Now for something completely different, albeit in the same era. This is the US first press of Alphonse Mouzon's record, The Essence of Mystery. Now it's got a little bit of sleeve wear, so this sleeve will be VG/VG plus, but the record itself is tremendous. Look at that. The original, I'll double check that it is the original, but I'm pretty sure on my cursory check that it was, but I will double check before everything goes out on Wednesday. So this Alphonse Mouzon is one of these characters that has lived a life, shall we say. I mean, rumor has it that he played on Led Zeppelin's Presence sessions, for example. For those of you who aren't aware, he is a drummer, but he was very, very instrumental in the burgeoning kind of jazz fusion scene. So he worked with Weather Report, McCoy Tyner, Larry Coryell, before launching this solo album, which came out in 1973. It was his Blue Note debut, and a lot of the Blue Note aficionados think that it's maybe the first, or certainly one of the very earliest Blue Note forays into jazz fusion. So this is a record full of kind of electric grooves. The title track, and I think maybe my favorite track on the album, Funky Snakefoot, are clearly in that jazz fusion space, but with a bit more grit. I think his drumming is ridiculous. It's highly collectible, especially for those who are really into that first wave of jazz fusion. And I think there may be some of you in the club. So legacy-wise, this is a record that bridges between that acoustic and the electrified 70s sound. And for those of you who are kind of Blue Note junkies, this one is, I think, pretty cool. Now, this next record is more controversial in some respects than Alphonse Mouzon, but this is, and I really did think hard about having this as the kickoff record as well. This is Valley of the Dolls, Generation X, fronted by Billy Idol, and there he is. Billy Idol has become a little bit of a, I don't know, sneaky hero of shortcuts over the last 3 years. I had a look back. There's been a lot of Billy Idol records that I've had, and they've been snapped up by lots of different people. Whiplash and various different things, some 12-inch EPs and all sorts. This is pretty special, though. This is the Japanese first press of the second album by Generation X, 1979. Look at that kind of typically sleazy kind of picture. Billy Idol on vocals, Tony James on bass, Bob Andrews on guitars, Mark Laff on drums. Producer Ian Hunter. That is interesting. Ian Hunter of Mott the Hoople. And that is also why this record has divided opinion. So unlike the full-on snotty punk of the debut, this record is punk glam, clearly. And you can hear it in some of the more anthemic songs. Some of the guitar solos are actually really cool. Some people thought it was a total kind of punk sellout, but really, in hindsight, this record is a foreshadowing of where Billy Idol would go, and also where he is right now. He is still a touring force. The mastering on this is ridiculous. It's super high quality vinyl. I've never seen any Generation X before. It's very expensive on Discogs, but I won't be charging anywhere near those amounts. But it is pretty bloody rare and really cool. And I don't care what the reviews say. Sure, some of the punk, I guess, generic sound isn't quite there, but I think this is fun. And I read a bit where Billy Idol described it as Generation X's attempt to be the Rolling Stones. Well, it didn't work. But in hindsight, I don't know. I think it's pretty good. Okay. I've also had over the last little while a run of really wonderful Steely Dan records. So I have another Pretzel Logic that I had from a few weeks back. So if any of you missed out on Pretzel Logic and want to dip back into that one, please, I have a spare. I'll just put it up again at the end of the list. But I have something now from Steely Dan that it is a long time since I've had this record. And what's fun about this one is that I think this is a little bit, again, lost in the mix. I think of the Van Morrison thing is a kind of appealing here. But I think this one's really, really good. And I'm curious as to you Steely Dan fans out there who are watching this, where you would put this record in the mix. This is The Royal Scam by Steely Dan. Now, first thing you'll notice, this sleeve is in wonderful condition. Now, it's not the first press. It is the series called the VIM series. This is VIM 4040, which is interesting because a lot of the Steely Dan fans out there think that this VIM series is the greatest sounding series of Steely Dan represses beyond going to the Analog Productions one step kind of nosebleed expensive variants that have come out in recent years, which I've never really dug into. I have no intention of grabbing those. I think these Japanese Steely Dan records are awesome, and so you don't have to step up every 9 minutes to flick the record over either. This is the record that features Kid Charlemagne, a cocaine era anthem covered by a lot of jam bands since then. Don't Take Me Alive is quite a menacing song for Steely Dan. I think the musicianship is as good as anything. I think it is darker than Asia. I think that it is as good as Asia. Asia is, I think, for me, almost a little off-putting in its sheen and perfection. This little darker record is kind of fun. Really, really nice. Love it, love it, love it. I don't know if it's the best Steely Dan, but I am interested in opinions. It is though, I think, arguably their most guitar driven, and that sleeve, that kind of nightmarish sleeve, is maybe reflected in the darkness of the music. All right, now I've got something new to talk to you all about. A number of you have pinged me saying, have you any Japanese artists? And so I wrote to the folks in Shinjuku saying, please put some interesting Japanese music, city pop, new wave in the boxes going forward. Now, this is the first tranche of these. So depending on whether there's an interest or not, I will tell them to keep doing that or I'll stop. It's pretty simple. But I've got 4 here that plus the folks sent me some notes that I think is really good because a lot of these are completely new to me. The great thing is they've sent me some duplicates, so some of these I'm definitely keeping, including this first record, which I think is really great. I had never heard of this. I love the sleeve, I love the music, I love everything about it. It is this. It is called Murdered by the Music by Yukihiro Takahashi. And you can see him there. Now, those of you who are into your Japanese kind of his discographies or histories will know that he was drummer and singer in Yellow Magic Orchestra, and he launched his solo career with this type of record, which is a mix of pop and electronica. Really quite sophisticated, though. And I think I would describe this as kind of Japanese techno pop. School of Thought, the title track, are really kind of new wavy. Kidnap the Dreamer, I think this is just a full on cracking record. And it's on Spotify, so give it a listen. Really influential on Japanese new wave. Somewhat of a cult classic now, and one of a series of these types of records. If you like synth-based kind of pop new wave, I think that record is really fun. How about this? Now we're moving into pure kind of city pop. This is Akira Teruo's Reflections. So this is 1981. He was actor and musician, and this is by far his most famous album, according to the notes. Now, what's interesting about this particular copy, and I'm just going to pull this out to show you. There's the notes, but it also includes a ticket to his concert tour from 1983. So this, anyway, a really, really interesting little record. Now, the notes that came with this one talk about it being really slick production, certainly more on that kind of city pop space. Now, these records are all going to be around the $35 mark, just so you know. But again, highly prized by city pop collectors all over the world. I've seen blogs all about this one. Well worth seeking out. Had quite a few hit singles as well. Now, how about this one? I think this is really, really fun record. This is Kiyotaka and the Omega Tribe's Aqua City. Now, the Omega Tribe became a really influential and famous, there's a whole bunch of the people there, famous group in kind of city pop circles. And part of the reason this record was in the list is because it's described by the folks in Shinjuku as kind of breezy and more tropical. So it's more, it really does feel like summer music. It's very summer vibey, yacht rock, very lush, really slick compared to the others. Summer Suspicion was, kind of a standout on my flick through. So I've decided not to keep any of these, even though typically with these types of things I would, because I want to see if you folks are interested in these types of things, and I can get more. What I also put in was this. Now, this is really weird. This is really different. This is the Plastics Welcome Back from 1981. I'm just going to show you the inner because it gives you a sense of what this type of music is. Look at this. Really playful and fun. Robot, Top Secret Man. This is full on new wave. This is like Japan's answer to Devo. Quirky, synth driven, angular, kind of funny lyrics. This is very cultish in Japan, and a really interesting selection, and I'm really keen to see what you all think. Apparently David Byrne loved these guys, but anyway. This is one of my, I'm going to have to be quick because I'm running out of time. This is another record that I love. I've had it before. This is the UK press of Pretty Good by Bernard Pretty Purdy, one of the most recorded drummers in the history of recorded music. His patented Purdy Shuffle, his work with Aretha Franklin, the aforementioned Steely Dan. This is 1971. I love this album. This is Bernard Purdy, one of his few records where he was the leader. Cold Sweat, Wasteland. I think This album was modestly received at the time and is now a crate digger's delight. Highly fun record. Okay, I absolutely love the selection of Miles Davis records that the folks in Shinjuku are sending my way. Look at that for a sleeve. So this is a Japan-only compilation of the early classics from the seminal Miles Davis quintet, sextet with John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley, etc. So you've got on Green Dolphin Street, you've got Stella by Starlight. So you've got some selections from kind of Blue, but what you've also got are some of the more melodic numbers from the records that surrounded that, like From In a Silent Way, etc., or Round Midnight. And so it's just a wonderful compilation on the original green and orange label, and that sleeve is just wonderful. Really, really like these legacy canonical compilations. So this is basically like bringing together kind of Blue milestones, etc. I don't know. I think they're great. Another band that just has a second life on Shortcuts, and that is the magnificent Ohio Players. This is the Japanese first press, typically incredible sleeve. There it is. There's the young lady feeding an apple to the horse, because that's what you do. And there's her back. I think this is great. Now, Contradiction came really at the height of Ohio Players' powers. This is 1976. This is just kind of peak, absolutely peak Ohio Players. There they are. For those of you who know, you know how good this record is. Funky, fun, typically sleazy Ohio Players. And Hoochie-Coo and Contradiction are all awesome. Included in the City Pop mix were some standout records in different genres. Now, this is really interesting. This is Os Originas da Samba, Pra Que Tristeza. This is a Brazilian samba group that formed in the 60s, and they mixed kind of traditional samba with more modern sounds, and were quite popular in Japan. And so what you've got here is a real, just pristine copy on the RCA label of some of the best samba music you will ever hear, direct from Japan, or from Brazil, via quality Japanese pressing. All right, I've got two more to go, plus the Steely Dan. This is a record with a fascinating history. This is Metal Health by Quiet Riot. They became the first heavy metal band to top the US charts, which they kind of lived out on for quite a long time. Thanks to really their cover. Oh, is it on this record? Oh gosh, I know I've got to second guess myself. But I'm pretty sure they were the first band. They did. So like Oasis, who covered Come On Feel the Noise, so did Metal. So did Quiet Riot. It made them unlikely stars during that early kind of glam metal explosion. Really kind of hit the MTV growth, mushroomed, and they just had the energy and I guess the sound to make it work. Opened up the door to that glam metal 80s domination. And that Japanese pressing is in fantastic condition. All right, I have only one more to go, and then I'll show you the Steely Dan again. This is 7 by Soft Machine. This, now, I put this on earlier. Mike Ratledge, John Marshall, Roy Babington, Carl Jenkins. And what was interesting about this was I asked Melissa, what year do you think this was made? And she could not come anywhere near. She thought it was much more modern than what it was in 1973. Another jazz fusion, kind of classic, but with much more psychedelia and prog rock leanings. And so this is as polished and as cerebral as anything they did. And yeah, and I got it super cheap as well. So, Soft Machine. And finally, I mentioned Pretzel Logic. I have another copy. I know loads of you pinged me wanting a hard cardboard copy again. I have a second. It's in as good a condition as the one that went out a couple of weeks back. Please snap it up if you so desire. That is Steely Dan's third record. And I don't know, probably my favorite, I think. I think I like it more than Royal Scam. I definitely like it more than Asia. It competes with the debut album for me. So there you go. There's our genre list, from Generation X to Alphonse Mouzon to Van Morrison to Quiet Riot to Steely Dan via City Pop and Japanese new wave band like the Plastics even. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know what your favorite Steely Dan record is, and any thoughts or comments welcome as always. Thank you for watching, and if you want to be on the list to receive the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Over and out.